Yeah, there's always
You
somebody
know?
to come along with an opinion, and it's like, I don't need the negativity in my life. So now that I have
Right.
grown up enough to say, hey, this is who I am, take it or leave it, love me or hate me, but this is who I am. I feel like that took a lot of weight off of me too. I don't have to walk around and try to pretend that I'm something perfect or
Be everything to everyone.
yeah,
Be
I
the
don't
best.
do it. I just now honestly say, I'm sorry, I can't do all of this and I need help. And so I will ask David to help me. And so David sometimes is like, oh gosh, yeah, let me do that because he loves to do certain things. And if I know that he loves to do certain things like cook food and I don't really enjoy cooking,
He's really good at it.
yeah, he is. He's really good at making pie too, puts on 20 pounds for me. But I would rather him do things that could offload me and make me happy and not so stressed out, right? And then we can relax. And I get short and I don't want to be short. And then I catch myself because I'm hearing myself. I've learned to listen to myself now. And when I see myself going off the rail or getting close to it, I'm like, oh my God, Deborah, get back with it, right? So,
Right, same thing.
yeah, it really does help.
Well, you have to remember that the core, Deborah, you're a divine person. You're a divine soul. That soul is not affected by trauma. And, for you, Miss Walsh, who has her own production company, but you didn't say that, the part about unfinished business with death is sometimes it can help to do meditation. Sometimes it can help to consult a medium. After COVID, I'm a certified medium. I worked with a lot of people who couldn't say goodbye with their family members or suicide. I have another medium that I work with. She specializes in suicide. And understanding that that's their journey and that was their time to die in whatever way they want to do it. Every soul has a choice of when they want to die.
Yeah.
That's their soul's choice. And it doesn't have anything to do with what you woulda, coulda, shoulda done. It wouldn't have mattered if that's the portal of life they went through. But you sometimes need to hear it from that person and say, thank you so much for loving me. Love is eternal. We have it when our children are born and we have it for them, no matter if we're talking to them or not talking to them. Love is eternal and our souls are eternal. And those souls will come back together in love on the other side. They do, guarantee you they do. So a very short period of time when you don't talk to somebody for 3 years can be humanly very painful. But what also matters very much on this earth is that we unconditionally love ourselves. That we say, I really do love myself. And I'm going to love myself to say it's not okay for us to be in an abusive relationship. I'm going to love myself to say it's okay that I really want to be present and I'm thinking about that freaking show I have to do tomorrow. And I'm going to try my best to be present. I'm going to try myself not to be short and go, are you kidding? You freaking get in my car every time you're starving. I'm just supposed to bring you to a baseball game. What the heck? Dude, grab a cracker, Yeah. But to come back to going, that love is eternal. Our children know it. And you can't undo that love. You can only undo spaces of time where you can't be with somebody because you love yourself.
Yeah. I think those are very wise words. And I think the reason I had so much sadness around my dad's death and what you said just absolutely resonates, Dr. Darlana. My dad chose to die. And he kept trying to tell me that it was his time and that he wanted to die in this particular way and he didn't want any more treatment for his colon cancer. And it was irreversible. There was no fixing it. And he didn't want to be tortured, with all of the different therapies, right? But I just was beating myself up and I'd look him right in the eye and tell him, I can take you to the hospital. I can do this. I can do that. And he says, you don't need to do that. And I don't want you to do that. So when it was time for him to pass away, I stood right next to him and I held him And all of the songs that I knew that he wanted to have played at his funeral, because one day he sat down and wrote a list for me, I started singing them. And my cousin was with me, who was an ex-Marine. And I held my dad, and I had no idea what I was looking at, but I knew this was a moment that I had dreaded my whole life. From being a child, I was scared to death of when my parents would die. How would I react? Would I faint? Would I lose it? You know. So anyway, I was holding my dad and singing to him. And my cousin Michael said to me, "Debra, have you ever seen your dad do this before?" And my dad, when he passed away, his head went back, his mouth went wide open, and then you saw his body going into like a little convulsion, and it just like his spirit came up and out of his mouth and went up. And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my life. And I think at that moment I realized there is another side. And my dad could see me, and my dad knew that I loved him, and I told him that. And I was set free at that moment. I was. And I forgave him. And I forgave myself.
That's beautiful. I do think it's when you witness the death and you see a soul leave the body, which I've seen, one of the things you feel is they have a great sense of peace.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, the troubles that we've had, we leave those behind. We leave those on earth. They don't go into a spiritual place. So it's a huge relief to leave any regrets, any unfinished business. You're just back to your divine self. And when you have the presence with your father now, or with your brother now, that's their true self that you're connecting with.
Right.
You can feel the presence. You can feel them around you. Most everybody does, but they aren't open to it. But it's really beautiful to be able to connect with somebody who's passed over and loves you and feel their love around you, especially at hard times where you're like, I'm just effing up. I can't do anything right. And you have your family come in and place their hearts and spirit on your heart and give you the love and strength that you need to continue on.
And I feel like my dad absolutely is with me. I can feel that now.
Yep. I do with my brother too. I had a similar experience, Deborah, when he passed. I think it was like a week later maybe, and because I'm a spiritual person, like, you know, I just believe in signs and feelings, and things happen for a reason, and that kind of thing. And, you know, there's obviously something higher than us. But I felt my brother like leave this earth.
Mm-hmm.
Like I felt him. I just felt it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a week or a week and a half after, like, because after he had passed, this was heavy. Like we all knew this was going to happen. He had attempted it. Like he had a mental illness. We knew it was going to happen, but
you didn't know that day.
I don't know. No, I know, but I knew the October. He passed in February. In October, I remember saying to myself on a shoot in Ohio, I said, my brother's going to die this year, just because we were close. I knew, you know, he was struggling. And, but I felt like, I don't know, I felt his spirit kind of go. Like he moved on, and I felt that. And that was very cool for me. And I had a lot of visitation dreams, which were awesome. The first couple of dreams were really horrible, because I'm like, you're alive, and then he would die, and I'm like, but some, like, I was on a shoot somewhere, and I had like, he came into the hotel room, and I'm like, it was a dream, or was he there, and sat by my bed, and like, I'll never forget that. Like now I'm gonna be upset, but it gave me like comfort to know that, like,
yes, it gives you comfort. That's the thing, is you get comfort, and you can have completion with it, and just know that love is eternal. But they don't want to pop in all the time, because they'll freak you out. Okay, so that's why you set an intention. I want you to come here in my dream. Or I told my mom, who didn't believe in anything about spirit, life after death, nothing. I'm like, okay, I'm telling you to come on Sunday at 1:00. Don't bug the crap out of me, okay? Because I know I can talk to you and tell your 8 other sisters, siblings. They all probably, do things that she wants to give advice to. But I will tell you, the most beautiful thing is my mom was a perfectionist, and she was very critical and judgmental. And she was very hard on us, and it was very hard to live up to her standards. And then when she finally, and I ended up getting bulimia. I mean, I had, mental illness because of that anxiety disorder. And when she died, she came to me, and I was with another medium at the time. And she said, I just wanted you kids to be perfect, but I didn't know that you already were.
Oh, that is very
And we all
beautiful.
are.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. I think the other challenge that I've been facing is my mother has full-blown Alzheimer's, and it's just been really difficult. I haven't spoken to her in 3 years, but she has declined. So, here's a person, and Heather, you've met her, and here's and Dr. Darlana has also met her. But here was a person that was so busy and so productive in her life, and we would talk on the phone sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, no matter where I was at on the planet. If I lived in France, if I was in Costa Rica, wherever, we were talking on the phone. But I now would never have guessed that there would be a day, let alone 3 years, that I haven't spoken to her, and that she probably can't remember much at all anymore, And it's really a debilitating disease. And when you have somebody that you love so much and you're watching them go downhill like that, I don't know which is worse. I don't know if it's worse to, all death is a shock, and it comes at a shocking time. But I do know that my dad, I can feel, is happy, and he's been set free from all of this stuff here on the earth. And I do know he's rejoicing. I do know that, so I am happy for him. But it's like my mom is in a torture chamber, because of her disintegration that's going on.
Alzheimer's is a family disease, and it's very difficult to see somebody and be so helpless that you can't do anything. But do you know that when I've worked with Alzheimer's patients that have not been communicative, that their spirit leaves their body and they're gone a lot over to the spirit world to kind of prepare. A lot of them are fear of death because sometimes they have guilt over, being unfaithful to their husband or not being a good mom, for God's sake, or whatever it is. And they're not in their body in the torture chamber all the time. They're coming in and out and practicing to pass over.
That's interesting. And what also is interesting is my mother, before she got too bad, would always lay on all these regrets. I didn't do this right. I didn't do that right. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Why are you bringing this up? And she would go clear back to when she was 20, and she would tell me, I made this decision that was wrong. And she would just go over that and over that. And I had to constantly reassure her. So I think you bring up an excellent point. And I don't know how many people are struggling with it, but I know they believe that by, I think it's another 20 years, that 40% of the American population, because it's getting older and older with all the baby boomers and whatnot, that 40% of the population, the families, are going to be faced with Alzheimer's in a big way. So it does have a big effect on us as a culture.
It's touched.
A lot of my friends have it. Yeah, or friends' parents have it a lot.
Yeah, I know several people that it's touched their families and my family also.
Yeah.
So.
And it's emotionally draining.
Yeah, because you're losing someone, day by day, slowly. It's just hard to watch.
Yeah. So Heather,
my friend Ann.
Both my parents had cancer. I took care of both of them as a primary caretaker in their home. They wanted to stay in their home and watch them, go from being functional to being very sick and to being in hospice until they died. So I understand that process very well, and having to deal with 8 sisters and brothers who are mostly very supportive, but at times they were not. They're like, you're going to kill our parents. You're going to kill them. Or you're killing them.
Oh my God.
I'm like, no, I'm giving them morphine, and that's not killing them. It's keeping them out of pain. So I know those kind of struggles with it. It's really tough. It's financially draining also to have parents that are very ill. But what keeps them a lot of times on earth, regret is a form of self-abuse. It's a form of self-criticism. And what keeps them on earth is unforgiveness. So, what you did with the work, even if she's not conscious, sit by their side and either remind them of the good things they did or just forgive them for anything they did. I finally told my mom, you've got to forgive yourself and forgive everybody else. You screamed out, I forgive everybody, let me die. Like, well, that's a good start, Mom.
Right.
She did die a few weeks later. So, just tell them that they're forgiven, and God forgives everybody for everything. So keeping them on earth, guilt is a heroine of emotions, and it keeps people trapped here in torture chambers, but know that they can come in and out too. But, that's one of the ways that they can be free.
And Heather, what were you saying about your friend?
Oh, just real quick. No, my friend Anne, she just recently had her mom in like a retirement home that needed to be moved to like the nursing home part of it because of her Alzheimer's. And she asked me, she has a sister and there's a whole thing there, but I offered to help move her and she's like, oh my God, I would love that. And, I went over, we moved her, she had a good day. So like she was, great with me. And then Anne's like, that was like a good day. She's, saying things that don't make sense. And then, we did the whole move and that was like a lot of work and got her in, to a room where she had like her own apartment, but now she's like in a room with like another roommate. So it was like very different for her. But like she seemed okay. But then when I had to leave, Anne came out and just lost it, and was like, it's such a hard day and thank you for coming and helping me, so it was like, we don't have Alzheimer's really in our family, but seeing that was like it was just very difficult for me.
Yeah. And I'm sure that having you there and being close and supportive, I'm sure that meant the world to her.
Yeah, it was, I'm glad I did it,
Yeah.
So that's all I wanted to share, about that. Debra, my mom just stopped by. Is there any question that because she won't stay for the whole thing and I don't want to derail anything, but she's an amazing woman. Is there anything that would help or any question on this that she could
I would love to hear her share anything that she thinks is valuable to encouraging and uplifting women as they're going through life and not to do too much. I think what we're guilty of, all of us on here, is that we tend to be overachievers.
Yes.
And
Debra, I have to figure out though, I'm going to have to take these off, right?
Okay.
Yes. I'm not a tech person, even though I'm a producer. No one understands that. So I'm going to I'll move my mom over. So
For Barbie.
Hi, I'm Debra, and this is Waylon.
Hi.
And we have Dr. Darlana on with us. Hi, Barbie. It's nice to meet a real live Barbie.
I tell Heather, I'm the original Barbie.
There you go. So how did you raise such an amazing Heather Walsh? How did you do that? She is just an amazing woman.
Thank you so much. Heather, Heather has her own ideas and she puts a lot of time into everything that she cares about. So she's done a lot of her own thoughts for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have known Heather for probably close to 15 years now, I think, altogether.
Right.
And she has been through a lot of rough times with me and my family. And she has always been a very stable, calm person. And I don't know how she keeps it all together all the time, but I think you've raised an amazing, calm, well-behaved woman there. I mean, I'm amazed by her. I know that you've had a loss of a child. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got through the loss of a child?
I think the fact that I had two as children helped me immensely. The loss will always be there, but having Christopher and Heather, I wanted to make sure that they were okay, and I wanted them to have the best normal lives that they could moving on, or to be able to get through this. So I think that's the way everybody feels differently, but that was my focus, the two of them, and they helped me. I hope I helped them, and they seem to be doing right, but it never leaves you. We lost a baby son too at early on in our marriage, so you learn to compensate to yourself and move on. So,
And
but
that's,
we don't forget. We still celebrate David's birthday with balloons in the sky and a cake and talking about him. To us, he's still with us.
that's good. That's healing when you can do that. Don't you think, Dr. Darlana, that that's a good thing, like not to ignore it?
Well, the first thing that I want to say is, Barbie, you are a beautiful woman.
Thank
You're
you.
really still very stunningly beautiful. It's really
Thank
beautiful to see
you.
the face and your demeanor.
Thank
And I had a brother who died shortly after birth too. I was the replacement child, and we still talk about, and we know that he grew up with us, and we have a place for him, and we have a wedding or dinner, we'll have a place for him, and we honor. So
Exactly.
when a child's born, even when they die shortly, they are still alive in spirit. They can have a choice whether they stay that age or they go up or they go down. Personally, you don't have to go down at all. You look beautiful as you are. For me, I think I'd like to go to about 36, but he's aged up with you. And so he's grown up with you together. And that's beautiful that he's still a part of you. And so is the baby too, a part of your life.
Yes. Thank you. We feel that way. Now, medically, that little baby would have lived. It was a hole in his heart. And they said if it was a girl baby, she would have lived at that time. But recently, I just heard that he would have lived, but he lives with us in our own way. So that's a good thing.
Well, my brother became a pediatric heart surgeon because my brother who died also had a problem with his heart, which now can be fixed, and he's fixed it on other babies. So it's kind of cool that you had that, and he grew up to be able to help people like having a hole in their heart that can, that those experiences create some of the purposes in our life, and it created a purpose for him. And so now we can, and he can do that and help babies live.
Well, bless him and thank him. That's wonderful, wonderful news.
So there was a purpose. He probably wouldn't have become pediatric in heart surgery without that happening. So we don't know the reasons why things happen. We don't know. My great grandmother was told when she was 16 and she had a baby that she couldn't have any more children. And she just said, "We shall pray and we shall see." And she had 11 more children.
Wow.
Well, bless her.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that attitude though. I love that she didn't take what somebody else told her, that she believed in herself and her God, and she went forward.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Well,
and
Barbie.
I went in here.
Yeah, there you go. Barbie, thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And I did want to cover one more topic because it does affect a lot of women out there, but I have had 3 miscarriages in my life. And, it was really scary, number one, because, I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And number 2, I guess especially on the last miscarriage that was further along, I really wanted to know where the baby's soul was going to go. And I was really worried about that because I didn't understand, So I spent a lot of time in the Bible. I spent a lot of time with a minister. And I guess the biggest thing that, like Dr. Darlana said, we will see them again. And they're going to be up in heaven. And when we get there, I will be able to meet 3 people that I've never met that are my children. And I just, I'm kind of excited. I feel like, my children on this earth turned out one direction, and I'm hoping that the children up there turn out in another direction. And maybe they'll be more forgiving and loving and free. I don't know. So, Dr. Darlana, how would you share with women who have had a miscarriage and encourage them?
Or an abortion.
Yeah, or an abortion.
People worry about what happened to the soul of those children that they could not bring into the world. Mm-hmm. And what I've experienced personally is just amazing that I had one woman who had 5 experiences of miscarriage and abortion combined, never did have children, but we had a session with her and all 5 of them came in as adults. Wow. And it told them why they did not come through, what their purpose was, how much they loved their mother and thanked them for the choices they made at the time. And they will be there on the other side. Once they're conceived, once a soul's conceived, you can't undo them. They are created. So you can communicate with them now, or you can communicate with them later, or both. But children that die all become angels. Mm-hmm. And they can be around you at times. Sometimes they're your helpers, like guardian angels. So just know that love is eternal as well. And there is a divine purpose, even if we cannot possibly understand what that is from her.
Right, exactly. I think that's well said. Heather, any last words of wisdom that you'd like to share with us? Anything that, for example, what's your biggest takeaway from Teen Mom OG? What would you say would be your biggest takeaway from a learning perspective, knowing the girls that you worked with and watching their struggles?
I mean, I would say the biggest takeaway was just realizing, specifically the girls on that show, like how strong they are.
Yeah.
Because once I had Henry, I was 37. I think I became a better producer when I was a mom, to be honest. I mean, that makes sense. I can't imagine looking back when I was 16. I was so immature and such a brat at 16 to have a child and take care of it. Yeah. So I would say just, that they're a group of very strong women, mm-hmm. That, obviously they had support and family and that, but, they were doing it not completely on their own with every situation, but they were doing the best they could. And I think, some of the girls had, difficult childhood and growing up and situations when they became a mom with finances and that kind of stuff before they made a lot of money on the show. So mm-hmm. I would say just that they're very strong women. That was my takeaway. Young women. That was my biggest takeaway.
And I would agree. I would totally agree. Yeah. Dr. Darlana, Heather, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been a delight. And I hope and pray that the rest of your weekend will be happy and fun and not too hectic, but enjoy
in the moment.
In the moment. And tell Ishi hi for me, please.
I will. This was great, Debra. This was so great. Anytime you want me back on or anybody, it was great.
Thank
I really
you.
enjoyed this. This was a nice break. This answered how to relax.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks for having me. I would say that what I would close with is what Dr. Spock said was his first sentence in this book: trust yourself.
There you go.
Now go and glow.
Thank you for watching the Rebel Podcast today. Like, subscribe, and share.